We go back to the U.S. over in New York, where Joanne Soriano tells us about the absentee voting there. Let's take a look.
In New York, we reached out to the Philippine Consulate General to find out the current status of absentee voting for the upcoming presidential election. Let's hear what they had to say.
First of all, I'd like to limit the discussions to voter registration because we are not yet into the actual voting yet. So as a backgrounder, overseas voting registration for next year's election started in December 2019 and it ended October of this year. And the good news is we had a total of, there was a more than 200% increase of the number of registered voters for next year's elections compared to those who registered for the 2019 elections. It's actually a 205% increase because in 2019, we only had around 4,024 Filipinos who registered as voters. And for this year, we had a total of 8,264. It's more than double. And this is a trend that's usually noticeable when the national elections are for president and vice president.
What steps were taken to ensure good voting turnout despite the pandemic?
We had a very healthy campaign to encourage qualified Filipinos who have not registered yet to register for next year's elections. So we went out to the different states under our jurisdiction during our consular outreach activities. So there are 10 states under our jurisdiction, and we strongly campaigned with the assistance of our Filipino community partners to encourage Filipinos to register as overseas voters. And this would include former Filipinos. We encourage them to reacquire Philippine citizenship and become dual citizens, so they may also reacquire their right to vote. And we have had several Saturdays where we kept the consulate open for this specific purpose. And I think that helped boost up the number of new registrants.
No, I agree. And the turnout shows that it worked. And lastly, why do votes of Filipinos overseas count?
Because Philippine policies affect all Filipinos regardless of where you are. And this is one right where each citizen really has the power to decide the future of the country. Because as a citizen, we basically have more or less two choices: accept things as they are and do nothing, or try to do something about it and help chart the future, not only for ourselves, but for our children and grandchildren as well. And this can be done through the power of the ballot. And this is why we really encourage all qualified citizens to participate. So registering is the first important step. But the second and more important step is, of course, to go out and vote. Because when you register and you don't vote, then it's really not as effective. So that's the next challenge that we all face, is how to encourage all registered voters to participate. We really do not dictate who they should vote for. We leave them up to their own evaluation and good conscience. But what we do want them to do is, number one, go out, participate, and vote. And number two, regardless of who may win, whether this is your candidate or not, to support the new leadership of the country, because that is the only way for us to really move forward and prosper.
Joanne Soriano, Eagle News, New York, New York.